Penn State football fans. I'm Bob Flounders, joined by Max Ralph. Blue-White Breakdown time. Hope you guys are listening and or watching. Max, the season. It's November 17th as we record this a little after 2 o'clock after Terry Smith's Monday presser. We are down to one last Penn State home game in the regular season. Well, actually, it's one last Penn State home game. There won't be anything after the regular season at Beaver Stadium. They also have a road game at Rutgers, 3:30 kick. I saw your post. I think the day after Thanksgiving. Max, it's senior day. Penn State should have a little bit of their swag back, if it's possible to be swaggy when you're 4-6. But they thumped Michigan State 28-10. I think it's going to be a very interesting senior day experience at night against Nebraska, 7-3 Nebraska. I think it's a really intriguing game. But we're here to react to Terry Smith's press conference. And one of the things, Max, I think really appreciate about Terry since he's taken the job, we've been able to get to know him a little bit more. He's definitely a guy that cares very, very, very much about being a Penn State guy. He was a Penn State captain. And when he took over, he took passionately about kind of what he needed to do to get the team back on track. He's made a lot of success. He's been very successful doing that, I think. But we saw some raw emotion from Terry Smith today in his Monday presser. The question was from Audrey Snyder, and it was about, who did you hear from after your first Penn State win? What was that like? What was that experience like? And it started off, once Audrey asked the question, I'm like, ooh, this could be like the floodgates. He started off pretty calmly, but the emotions came out. He was overcome with emotion just because, A, he heard from so many people, and B, this is very meaningful to him. He's an interim head coach that played at Penn State, that's coached a long time at Penn State. He cares about his job. Justin King, his stepson, played at Penn State. He is a Penn State guy. And if you didn't know it, you're going to know it after the video comes out of Terry.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Bob. And it is circulating on social media right now. I said something last week about his candidacy to stay on staff moving forward and how much I think it really needs to happen, just because of all the good that he's done here. I think today was another example of this guy has been absolutely everything you could ask for in an interim head coach. Look, the season was pretty much lost when they fired James Franklin anyway. They're not making the playoff with those 3 losses. Yeah. All you could ask him to do was have these guys play hard, maybe win a game or 2 or 3 down the stretch. They've already completed both of those tasks. And you want him to just stabilize things, have the program in a good spot, have him representing the program in the right way. And he has done all of that and then some. I mean, Terry Smith, today, that display, he couldn't even get the words out when he was talking about his first win, because he's just said this is so humbling. I've heard from pretty much everybody who I've ever met in my entire life. He said he has 2 phones, and both of them had over 500 text messages on them. Yeah, and then DMs on social media. Like, literally, everybody's reaching out to him. And he just broke down, and he said, look, I'm so humbled by this. And I think the quote that really continues to resonate with me as we sit here a little bit removed from the press conference, he said, nothing in my life has made me and my family happier than this opportunity. Yeah. I mean, this is a guy who was thrown into a difficult situation where the man that he worked for 12 years got fired, and it was put on him to do this job with a team that fell below expectations. And he's rallied them, and he's handled everything with class and done a great job. And Terry Smith is just a Penn State lifer. He talked again about how his father went to Penn State and how much of his family went to Penn State. Obviously, he's a letterman and a former captain, which pretty much everybody knows at this point. But he mentioned, too, about his dad. When his dad went here, he was able to move the family from Aliquippa to Monroeville in Pittsburgh and gave his family a better life. And Terry Smith, clearly, that just still means so much to him. Like this university, this campus, this place means everything to him and his family. I mean, he continues to say he wouldn't be here without Penn State. And it was just one of the most powerful displays that I've seen in a press conference in a long time. He couldn't get the words out. I mean, he rightfully so. Like, this place has done a lot for him. He's done a lot for this place. And I say again, I don't know that he'll be the head coach here moving forward. I don't know that that's what Penn State's looking for, but it would really be a big mistake if he is not on the staff in some capacity next year, because there are few people regarding few places in this world, let alone this sport, that care about something as much as Terry Smith does Penn State.
Yeah, he said dad was a 68 grad, family grew up in Aliquippa. He said, basically said, pretty rough town. You hear the stories about that place. It's a rugged town, and they were able to move the family to Monroeville, and that really started a chain of events that changed Terry's life. Penn State player, 91 captain. It's funny. He's so, Mark Wogenrich asked the question, but he's also got a little bit of a tie to Matt Rule, the Nebraska coach, because he worked for Matt Rule, I believe, at Temple. He talked a little bit about that. But, Terry, what I think, there's still two games to go, but what I think Penn State fans need to remember about this experience is he took over and they played at Iowa, at number 1 Ohio State, and then they hosted, Indiana, and it was a rough go for him. It was a rough go for Ethan Grunkmeyer. I can't fathom a more difficult, first 3 games to come into as an interim head coach, and they're not really all that far away from being 3-1 in those games instead of 1-3. But they after they lost to Indiana, it would have kind of been easy. That was the last real shot, I think, at a real significant win this year. It would have been a little easy for them to kind of be a little bit gloom and doom for the land grant trophy battle. But as the game wore on and they continued to just pulverize Michigan State at the line of scrimmage, you could just tell the dam was going to break. Kaytron Allen and Dennis Sutton broke it. And I do think these last 2 games against Nebraska and at Rutgers, I think this veteran 2022 group that's kind of leading this team has made up its mind that they're gonna play their ass off through this regular season. I think it means a lot to them not to have a losing season, 6-6 instead of maybe 4-8 or 5-7. It means a lot to them. They still have some work to do, but there's a lot still to play for, including Max. Kaytron Allen's quest to become Penn State's all-time leading rusher. Yeah,
so that was really the nature of my question to Terry, because I got to ask him something just a little bit after Audrey did when he had the passionate display of emotion. And I had plenty of other stuff that I could have asked him, but I didn't want to let that moment get away. And I said, look, Terry, you talked about how special it was to be carried off the field. Like, that's never happened to you before. And then after the game, Nick Dawkins gave you a game ball. Like, these guys are still playing for you. How much does that mean to you? How impressed have you been with the buy-in? And he told a story of a guy who he didn't want to say his name for whatever reason, but he said one of their veteran players, a guy that would really a guy that would surprise you if he said the name, is what he said. So I assume it was probably a senior, a guy who's looking at an NFL career moving forward. He said that this player came up to Terry in the past week and said, I have a family situation that I want to attend in the first week of December. Are we going to have practice? Because we're going to win these 2 games at the end of the season. Are we going to have practice? And Terry said, look, we're in a world of opt-outs, and this guy, who has plenty of other things that he could be worried about, is committed to winning 2 games at the end of the season and getting to a bowl game, and not only getting to a bowl game, but playing in it. And again, I reiterate, he didn't say his name, but he said this is a guy who, if I told you, would really surprise you. So it's just another example of what these guys have done for Terry and how much he's done for them. A point he made when he got the job was, I think I've recruited or been in the recruiting process in some capacity for every single player on this roster. Like, this guy is all over Penn State and this team, and it's good to know. It's good to see the way that they've rallied around him. This Saturday is going to be an interesting one because there are 30-plus seniors who are going to be honored, and guys who, decided to come back when they didn't have to and didn't have the year that they expected or hoped for. There's a guy like Drew Aller who is now out for the season. His career is over in a way that he certainly didn't expect or hope for. And like you said, Kaytron Allen is really knocking on the door of history and has been an incredible bright spot in a down season. And really, if he stays healthy, I see no reason why he shouldn't have history by the end of these 2 games.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure at some point there's going to be a meeting this week, and there's going to be a knock on Terry Smith's door, and the Penn State's best 7 offensive linemen are gonna say we need a minute with you, and they're going to say, look, he's going to get the record. The only question is how soon do you want him to get it? Because they're absolutely going to load the wagon.
Mm-hmm.
He is one quality Kaytron Allen game away from catching Evan Royster. If you look what he's done this year, now look, Michigan State, not a great defense, but 181, right? Iowa, good defense. That was his previous career high. He got 145. I think Florida International had 144. But if you give this man 20 carries a game, you look what he's averaging this season. Nebraska is not really a really great run defense. If you look at their numbers, I was looking at it earlier today. He's going to have a heck of a shot maybe on Saturday to get there. But I think there are a lot of people that are going to play really hard, not only for Terry, but for Kaytron, because Terry talked about Kaytron a little bit today too, about his growth at Penn State. And again, Terry Smith is a truth teller, just like James Franklin said. Like he'll tell you some stuff that maybe the world didn't, the Penn State fans didn't necessarily want to know. But when Kaytron got here, he was a true freshman. They played him right away. But a young guy from IMG Academy, and it took a little while, I think, for Kaytron to maybe warm up to his teammates and the coaching staff. But that's not unlike any other freshman's experience in college. You're not exactly, I'm not going to say most freshmen are wallflowers, but it takes a little while to find your footing, to get comfortable. He came up north, it's freezing cold, but he said his growth, off the field has really been something. He has morphed into a team leader. He sees it in the running back room. Whenever we get a chance to talk to Kaytron, I think he is the most fascinating interview on the team, only because I'm never quite sure what he's going to say, but he says what's on his mind, Max. He says it with a smile on his face. So I just think that a lot of his teammates are committed to this, and I think it's going to be pretty something. I would say if he can do it. I don't want to jinx him, but if he can do it on senior day, like that place is going to go crazy.
Yeah, and it should. It should. It'd be great to see him do it on senior day because, like I said, like a lot of these guys who have been here and are part of the senior class, this didn't go the way they wanted, but there are bright spots that you can hold on to. That win for Terry, Kaytron setting a record, and they should be afforded every opportunity to celebrate things like this down this stretch. Because as Terry said, this 2022 recruiting class, when they came in, featuring Kaytron, Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, Denai Dennis Sutton, all those guys, when they came in, Zane Duran as well, when they came in, they said, like, we're chasing a national championship. And I think everybody kind of knew that with that core of players, this was a window for Penn State. This was a window where, with Drew Aller at the helm, with Nick Singleton and Denai and Kaytron, with all of them as stars, you probably had a 2 to 3 year chance to get to the title game, to win it. And they were 1 game short last year. This year is different. But in that stretch, as Terry said, they brought more wins to this program than, pretty much, I think, any other 3 year stretch in program history. I mean, these guys really did a lot for the program. And so I don't have a rooting interest as a good good ethical
You want to
journalist.
say objective? Are you going to say objective, Max? I'll agree with you. I will agree with you.
Yeah. I'm going to say, as a good ethical journalist, I don't have a rooting interest, but I hope Kaytron gets that record at home this weekend because he deserves it. And I just think it would be a great moment.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I think they said he is now. Last week, he's definitely earned his keep because he emerged from a timeshare.
Yeah.
Which was good and bad, but also I think he is he the leading? He's got the lead in program carries now too. It's not like it's not like he was banging off like 55 yards a clip every game.
He worked for this.
He did have to work for it. He's not a guy that's necessarily going to avoid contact, although he's gotten so much better at in the hole with his vision at avoiding it when he wants to. But there's also times when he knows he has no choice. He's not going out of bounds. He's just going to try and run over you regardless of your size. I think he's a guy to root for. I do agree with you. I also think it's a little fascinating that I think this is one of the more compelling games Penn State has played this season.
Yeah.
I would say, the Iowa game just because of the curiosity, but also the Oregon game. But we're not even talking about their run defense has to defend against the leading rusher in the Big Ten, who is very dangerous. And I just think, as much as we're talking about Terry and as much as we're talking about Kaytron's growth, maybe the number one storyline is we're going to find out about the growth of this run defense in this game because Emmett Johnson can run the ball. He leads he leads the nation in rushing yards. They've made a change at quarterback. I had to write this down. TJ, I think it's Latif, but he is a dual threat. Yeah. And that's another thing that's been an issue for Penn State. So the line's like 8.5. I just think this could be a really, really good game, a really good back and forth game. And I'm anxious to see the offensive line get after it, but I'm also anxious to see Penn State's front seven.
Yeah, it's the first time Penn State and Nebraska have played in 5 years. They played in 2020, and first time that they've had fans out there in a long time. And Matt Rule, obviously, is a former Penn State walk-on, a state high area guy. Thought he was tops on the coaching search until he signed that extension. Like, there's a lot going on with this game this weekend, Bob.
Matt Rule wants this game bad.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about a hungry guy. He's coming. He's coming to win. He wants to make a statement.
Yeah, and I would say on the contrary, I think Penn State really wants to beat Matt Rule and say, hey, we don't need you. Like, stay.
But in this game, I'll tell you this. I would have to imagine Matt Rule. Of all the games, they play Iowa after this game. They've had some big games ahead of them. I bet you this game, he'll never admit it, means the most to him. And I think his team's going to pick up on that. It's going to be A-game effort against A-game effort. I'm pretty sure in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. To your point about the running game, though, I just think the way that Penn State's defensive front seven has transformed in the past two games is what impresses me most. And Terry was asked about it a little bit, and he said something I found really interesting because obviously we've heard a lot about Jim Knowles' scheme being a little complex, being able to simplify it a little bit, and at this point, guys becoming a little more comfortable with it. Terry said that they brought the Prowler package back, which is something that Manny Diaz implemented, and I guess that would be the 2022 season. Tom
Allen used it, I think, as well at times last year.
Tom Allen used it as well. Yep. And it's mostly like obvious passing situations, get an extra pass rusher on the field. Interesting. And Terry said other teams don't have an answer for it. And clearly they haven't because Penn State has been the best pass rush in the country the past two games. They sacked Fernando Mendoza 3 times. They sacked Alessio Milivojevic 5 times. And Denai Dennis Sutton, if you want to go off of what PFF says, has the most pressures tallied in the past 2 games of anybody in the country. Zane Duran is 7th. Zariah Fisher is 8th. Like there are some serious. Zariah Fisher is 16th. I got that number wrong. I was rolling, but they've been the best pass rush in the country the past 2 games, and that includes against the number 2 team in the country. So, yes, Nico Iamaleava and Mark Gronowski were able to shred them with their legs in UCLA and Iowa losses. But this pass rush was not like that. This defensive line was not playing with that much confidence and physicality as it is right now. And I still have a little bit of concern if Penn State will be able to handle it, but it's certainly a lot less than it was for those games. And I think they're going to be up to the task.
Max, the difference is they knew where the quarterbacks were going to be the last 2 weeks. I think this Nebraska quarterback with design runs is going to be, it'll be a little bit different for them.
Yeah.
I just remember the games you were talking about. I think they're playing harder. They're playing better. They're better organized. They've got some answers, I think. They figured out some issues, I think, on the back end. Zakee Wheatley is more involved, I think, at the line. All that stuff. Darius Dixon is a big corner.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about him in a minute. But I think this quarterback might be a little bit more of a handful in terms of he can throw it a little bit, but I think this guy is at his best when they're going to have to account for him as a runner. Mendoza, I think more often than not, he kind of likes to live in the pocket. I just think I'm going to be curious to see in a tight game if there's some design runs coming Penn State's way, how they handle that. I think that they're definitely playing better, but I think this is a little bit more of a challenge than maybe the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, there are still some concerns. Like the linebacker core is still thin. We've seen a little more of Alex Tash, but not a ton. Keon Wiley we have seen a lot more from, and he's made a couple of nice plays. But there's a reason why this team is 4-6. We're saying a lot of great things because there are a lot of good things that have happened in the past 4 days. But this team is still 4-6 for a reason. I mean, they've struggled with certain things, and this matchup is really worth watching this weekend. The stakes aren't super high. Nebraska's not a ranked team anymore. Their college football playoff hopes are down the drain, but still going to be a fun game.
Yeah. Max, let's get to 2 more things. I have one surprise, it's a surprise question for you.
I love it. I love a surprise question.
It's one you're going to like.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about Darius Dixon. You were out in East Lansing.
Mm-hmm.
We have kind of said all along, and it's not everyone's kind of saying it. When you see Darius Dixon on the practice field, and you see the way, or you listen to the way his teammates were talking about him ahead of the season, and what the coaching staff was saying about him ahead of the season, he's a Mater-Dei kid. And he is a physical talent, but he's also been prepped, I think, for the college level. He enrolled early. He is a big corner. He almost killed somebody in the blue-white game. I forget who it was, but it was one of the loudest hits I've ever heard in a blue-white game. And I've watched and covered a lot of them. And as the season has gone on, they've committed to give him more time. It didn't probably hurt that A.J. Harris was not available against Michigan State, but Terry said he played the most snaps in the corner room. He was impactful, not only in coverage, but also in run support. He recovered a fumble. I think Zion Tracy hit the Michigan State quarterback, and I think Darius is there for the fumble. And then they brought him out. So it's all the good stuff. It's a green light experience, right? Penn State is happy with his development on the field and off it. They do not rarely. I think at the very end of Joe Paterno's era, and also some time with Billy O'Brien, they would make some true freshman available later in the season. But that didn't really happen with James. So this is rare air. It tells you all you need to know about this kid. I'm excited to watch him play the next 2 games, and I think Penn State would be crazy not to pull out all the stops to make sure he is on the roster to start 2026.
Yeah, Terry Smith said today, this Monday press conference, that he's been part of the freshman movement. Is that how he described it? And Dixon has been so good, and he's been good as a cover corner, but his role as a blitzer in the past 2 games has been really impressive. I mean, every time they've sent him, he's been in the backfield.
Yeah,
it's been incredible. But to your point, it was a policy. James Franklin, freshman under him, did not speak to the media until either a bowl game required it or number 2 in February for an annual availability with all the second-year players. And I'm standing in the Michigan State Media Center, and I'm talking. I think I was talking to Kaytron at the time, and I got what I needed from Kaytron, but I was hanging around seeing what else he had, and all of a sudden I hear Penn State's.
They always yell the player's name, right?
Yeah, they yell, "We got Darius Dixon in the back," and I had to do a double take. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't happen. And so I made a beeline to go talk to him because this is a kid who burned his red shirt. I mean, it's the first time we talked to him all year, and he handled it really well. He was great. He had good quotes. I was by myself, of course, so I got pulled in a few different directions, but he did a really good job. Very intelligent kid, and I was impressed. And Terry was asked if that's a policy change. Like, are we going to see more freshmen moving forward? And he said, well, it's kind of a case-by-case basis, right? But
smart answer.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. Fair play. But he said Darius is mature. He's ready, and he's right. He handled it well. And look, Chaz Coleman's done a lot of good things this year. Kobe Howard's starting to see more playing time. Kamaju, yeah. Kamaju has shown great things.
Mm-hmm.
But this Darius Dixon kid, when he's been given more run time in the past 2-3 games, I think we're seeing he's the best freshman on this Penn State roster.
Oh, yeah. I think in terms of physical gifts and also preparation, which is what his teammates talked about, I would have been at the start of the season after like a game or two, I was thinking about Chaz, but at the end of the day, what separates, I think, Darius is his physical gifts, and he's physically ready to play corner. I think Chaz is physically ready to rush the passer, but he's not quite complete yet. He's not true edge rusher DN size yet. But when that happens, Max, hopefully it will be at Penn State.
Right.
I would like to see Chaz Coleman play at about 255, knowing that he can push some people back because he's twitchy enough, I think. But I think, against the run, that's one thing I would watch for him. But Max, we're almost ready to wrap up this Blue White breakdown. Thanks for watching and listening. It is Nebraska week. We talked about it being senior day. Terry Smith talked about the senior class, 30 strong. It's been a wild ride for this group. A lot of them played right away. A lot of them were key players on that team that almost beat Notre Dame and got to the championship game last year. A lot of them have had to this year's been a bit of a reality check when the expectations going in didn't match what was happening after 6 games. I think a lot of them came through it and are still playing hard. Some of them got hurt. Max, my question for you is, and I'm going to try and phrase this the right way. I was going to ask you who is your favorite 22, but that's not really a good question to ask 2 objective reporters. So I'm going to rephrase it, Max. Who in your mind is the most overlooked player of the 2022 class and why?
All right, give me a second to filibuster and pull up the recruiting class because I've got the big players in my head, but I want to make sure I don't leave anybody out.
Max, this should be right off the no, I'm just kidding. I had about 5 minutes to think about it, so it's not fair to you.
So I like you could go in so many different ways because yes, it's Drew Aller, it's Nick Singleton, it's Denai. Don't forget about Abdul Carter and Kaytron Allen.
I mean like the current 22. You know what I mean? That are still playing.
Right. Who's the most overlooked? I think it probably has to be the big man Venga Ioane, right? Like all the other guys who came.
I don't know. I mean, the guys Drew Dane Brugler's got him going in round 1. He has been. I don't know that I would call him overlooked. I know he plays an overlooked position, but I mean he has been spectacular. What he did to Michigan State. I mean, I know they weren't physically ready, but it was. I just think he's gotten a lot of love. He's a colorful player, but I think Ioane is one. I'm on the fence about Drew Shelton only because I think he's played better, but I think it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. For him this season. I think it's a really interesting question. And I think our answer would be different at the start of the season. Compared to right now. Because I think at the start of the season,
Kaytron Allen.
It could be Kaytron Allen. And I mean, clearly that really is not the case. I don't really know if there is a right answer to when you say overlooked, but you almost have to take Drew out. You take all the guys that we know about out of the picture, and what are we left with? You could make a case for Venga, a little bit of a case for Shelton, but as I think about it, I think I just talked myself out of my original answer. So it might be, you know what, Max? It might be something one of us could write later in the week when we have more time to process this. But right now, I am a little torn about what my answer would be, and I was looking to you for guidance. If you're going to go with Ioane, I can live with it.
Well, I just think like, yeah, Venga is a big star. Like, ever since he went in motion against UCLA, the man has been talked about, and rightfully so,
Yeah.
because he's a great player. But when you think about the way he came into the recruiting class,
Yeah.
he was a February signing who flipped from Washington, a last minute, like, guy came out of nowhere. He was a 3-star. When you think about the position he plays, even though he gets talked about, he does not get enough love on an everyday basis. And I also think, as you mentioned, he's a colorful player, but not everybody gets to spend as much time around him as, us as reporters do. And not everybody realizes the kind of leader and the personality that he
Mhm.
is. I think that when you get to a point and you're saying, who were the guys in this 2025 season from the 22 class who
Mhm.
really stood out to you, he's not always going to be the first name that comes out of
Right.
your mouth,
Right.
but he deserves a lot of recognition. That's
Yeah.
my rationale.
Yeah. And I would say this: if we were just going to talk about seniors in general, that also includes,
Yeah.
fifth and sixth year guys. My answer would be
Yeah.
Zaki Wheatley.
Oh,
I,
easily.
I just have been. I think. I just think if you look at his play from the start of the season to the end of the season, I think he's. I don't think he's ever been, up and down. Like did he play perfectly at the start? No, but man, the effort was there. He
Hmm.
was playing a deep center field, and now that they moved him closer to the line of scrimmage, he's showing up in run support. And this guy is an NFL safety, and I think he's a starting NFL safety. And I just think that if we're just talking about seniors,
Yeah.
I think he would be the guy that I would pick.
Yeah, you could also certainly make an argument for a Khalil Dinkins on that one,
Yeah,
who has done a lot of good things, but always
yeah,
been overshadowed by somebody who's just a superstar. Three guys who are playing in the NFL and starting in the NFL now.
yeah.
He's certainly up there. I mean, Nick Dawkins, who has
Mm-hmm.
done so much good, but he gets talked about as a captain, of course, so
Yeah.
not as overlooked there. But Zaki and Dinkins would probably be the first ones that I would go to.
All right, Max, we have a lot of content coming this week on PennLive. Max, you and Johnny McGonigal are going live on Thursday. I'm a
Yep.
little interested to see what these predictions are going to be for this
I
Nebraska
know. I was thinking about that too.
Penn State game because the line on FanDuel was 10.5 yesterday, and I was like, what?
It
And
seemed
then
high.
I looked, and it's still 8.5 on another site. That's a lot of points for a game that I think could be back and forth, but we're going to see how it plays out. But this is one of the more interesting, with the spread the way that it is, one of the more interesting games if you're picking against the spread, I think, is this one. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Oh, absolutely. I saw that number, 10.5, in your original post, and I was like,
I
I
had to go
mean,
back to FanDuel like 5 times, and I refreshed it, and I was like, it
yeah,
was still 10.5. I'm like, well, I think they might have set a bad line because it's 8.5. That means somebody set a bad line.
right. Yeah. Look, Penn State's playing much better.
Yeah,
They were far from perfect against Michigan State, but all in all, they pulled it out and ended up really, kind of handling that game. If
they did.
they would have converted a few more third downs on offense, the score could have been ugly. But then they hung with Indiana. You never know if the backup quarterback for Nebraska just had a good game against UCLA or if he's the real deal.
Mhm.
It's hard to predict this one. And I will say, like, Beaver Stadium is going to give them an edge on Senior Day. But I haven't made my pick yet for this week, so it will be interesting to see on Thursday what we've all got.
All right, Penn State fans, we are out of here. Bob Flounders, Max Ralph. Check back at PennLive constantly for
Constantly.
updates. You never know when Max and I are going to post something. It could be early morning. It
It
could
could
be
be.
late at night. It could be at lunchtime. You
Yeah.
just never know. We're going to surprise you guys. But thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Enjoy Senior Week. And Max and Johnny will be back on Thursday going live.